So this is something I wrote after experiencing what happened below. I posted this somewhere too and hadn't really thought about posting this experience here until now. 0. I didn't really expect to write a continuation. I mean, come on, who would want to risk their lives if they're perfectly sane? 0. So a few days passed since the last incident, and I was back outside at night like nothing happened. I mean, it's not like I can just stay at home all the time, no? However, I still feel jittery and anxious whenever I hear some shuffling or rustling somewhere in the dark. I can't help it. Feeling fear is what makes us human. It's a self-preservation instinct. There were a few instances where I had to check out what was happening outside a couple of times for the past few days, but everything was okay so far, and they were caused by the pets we had. So I just went on with life. I was happy that the past was behind me, or that's what I would have liked to say. However, last night was different. It was that same shiver I got on that night. It was like I was being observed as prey. That kind of feeling that you get where you have that strange suspicion that someone is observing you or staring at you, but you can't see anyone. Yet, you know someone or something is there. It was around 8:30 when it started. I was outside the house looking for a good signal so I could send a message. It's one of the things I hate when it comes to living in the province. The data signal is so bad inside that you have to go someplace else just to get a good one. I would have loved to stay inside at the comfort of my room, but the message was something urgent, so I had no choice but to go outside and become a portable blood bag for mosquitoes for a while. Anyways, as I was standing under a guava tree, scrolling through my social media and chatting with a few friends while waiting for a reply, I suddenly heard a rustling sound, followed by the flapping of wings. I thought it was some of the chickens that we have around, moving among the branches of the trees. Still, I couldn't help but look up and I saw nothing, just the bright moon, clouds moving past, and shadows of the leaves. Probably some fruit bats, I thought. I had seen a few before, and some had gotten inside the house too. It wasn't anything new and not something to worry about, so I just shrugged and forgot about it. However, before I could go back to what I was doing, I noticed something was wrong. It was something I hadn't paid attention to as I was having fun with my phone. It was quiet. It was a silence dripping with eeriness. The murmurs of the river nearby was the only thing that reminded me that time hadn't stood still. At this time of the night, I would usually hear the different calls of the wild, the only music of the night that you wouldn't hear elsewhere. Nah, it's probably nothing, I said to myself. It's not the first time I'd noticed this situation before. 10 years. I had lived here for 10 years now, and I wasn't a stranger to the place. This sort of thing happens, and nothing had ever happened. I didn't dare think about situations I had seen in movies, as they're too dramatic sometimes, to the point that they tend to be unreliable. I'm probably just too paranoid, I concluded. I wasn't about to admit that I'd been scared silly due to the events that transpired a few nights before. So I stood there under the guava tree and tried to stand my ground. Suddenly, a sound came which made me feel relieved for the first time in my life. Task, task, task. It was a rapid, continuous sound. It was something like a lizard's call I heard before, or probably some other animal's sound. I tried to pinpoint the actual identity of the creature in my mind, but it seemed to leave my grasp whenever I tried to. It seemed like a lifetime ago, but I was sure I heard it just a few moments ago before that weird silence descended. I gave out a relieved sigh and was about to go back to scrolling through my feed when... Tus, 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 tus. The call came again. At this point, my nerves had fully relaxed, and I couldn't help but let out a chuckle. However, the chuckles didn't last long. Tusk, 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 tusk. It was slow, deliberate, and sounded human, too human for my comfort. I was pretty sure it wasn't made by any animal in the area. I could feel the goosebumps coming, and a shiver ran through my spine. I could feel something was staring at me. A sticky sort of stare that would make even the strongest of men shift around in discomfort. I ran a hand through the back of my neck, and I could feel the hairs on it standing. Phew, fugage. I cursed inside my head. I could feel my heart racing. I could feel the veins on my head pulsing. I was panicking. I was staring wide-eyed in the dark. I didn't know what to do. I was outside. I was vulnerable. I could be easily attacked. I could probably die tonight and nobody would ever know. My body slowly decaying without anyone knowing until my family comes back from their trip. At that thought, I paled. What the hell, man? Of all the things you can think of, you had to think of that? I cursed myself even more for scaring myself needlessly. But there was nothing I could do, so I stood there like an idiot, listening to the weird call while reciting some Bible verse I memorized by heart. It was Deuteronomy 6:04, and Matthew 4:10. However, at that point I was basically incoherent. Nothing I uttered made sense or was even in the right order. Then the call came again. Tisk, tisk, tisk. This time it was nearer, but I still couldn't see anything. However, I could feel there was something inhuman near me. I nervously looked around and fumbled around to turn on my phone's flashlight. Nothing. Just pitch black darkness that seemed to stretch on forever. I tried to take a picture, but I couldn't see anything either. I could feel the hairs on my arms rising. Then, kuya ro iyo. A neighbor's call sounded dozens of meters away, which took my attention. I wasn't the one being called, but I was happy for the distraction it caused. I quickly collected myself and ran towards the house and locked myself inside. I told myself that I wouldn't dare come out at night for a while. However, when I got inside, I remembered that I forgot to turn off the lights inside the detached kitchen. Fudge it! I don't exactly remember when I first started hearing that voice in my head. I thought everyone had them too, like a little imp living inside one's head, thriving on one mischievous idea after another. Let's not study today and head out to play. He often seemed innocent or harmless enough, though it started taking a more nefarious turn at times. Just ignore Mom and Dad. What do they know anyway? Some called it a battle between good and evil in my head, an angel and a demon trying to convince me to their cause, except that it was only one side speaking all the time. Was I supposed to be the angel? I never thought I needed help till I was in my late teens. Bash his face in? He insulted you? You're going to be pussy about this? Thankfully, my friends managed to drag me off him in time. Frankly, I don't think the counselors or the psychiatrist ever really understood what was going on. How could they? To them, I was just another rebellious teenager with anger management issues. How was I to explain that there were times the voice grew so loud in my own head it seemed to bump me out of the cockpit and take over? He knew everything about me, my weaknesses and my insecurities, and he knew what made me tick. I think I finally managed to get a handle on things after getting into meditation and the like. Focusing on emptying my mind. Thankfully, it did help, or yours truly would have been writing this from inside a psychiatric ward while on a long-term stay. The voice did return with a vengeance while I was in college. Staying in a dorm room by myself with raging hormones didn't help a single bit. Ah, she seems passed out. You know you want it. Who would know anyway? Oh, please, just tell her she was all over you in the morning. You know, it was a miracle I even graduated with honors with all the pills and drugs I took to keep him at bay in my head. The meditation and focused thoughts could only keep him quiet for so long. He seemed to have mellowed down once I started work. Perhaps he decided to give poor old me a break for once. I don't think I could have even functioned with him around in full force and even hold a job. Yet he was never gone, always lurking in the background and never hesitating to remind me he was there. Oh, just a push. Everyone will think he fell on his own onto the tracks. Things were beginning to look up. I had a girlfriend. I no longer had thoughts about ending it all, myself along with this monster inside my head. My memory is a little hazy, but there were days when he uttered no more than a sentence or two. One fine morning I woke up after what was a long week at work. The sun seemed exceptionally brighter than usual, and somehow my head never felt as peaceful as it did today. Something was different, but I couldn't quite put a finger to it. As I got to make my morning coffee, I could see a figure in the corner of my eye moving towards the door. Its familiar voice was as clear as it ever was. "Goodbye, Andrew." Startled, I turned, and there it was. A spitting image of me staring right back with a smirk on its face. "I have no use for you anymore." I was gifted with the ability to smell deaths. And it wasn't a terrifying smell like rotten flesh. No, not at all. It was exactly the opposite. The smell of death, in my case, was like heaven. It started when I was in elementary school. One day my grandma was visiting, and at first, I didn't notice anything unusual about her. We were in the middle of a conversation when suddenly a scent filled the air. A scent so beautiful that I felt like I was standing in the middle of a garden, surrounded by blooming flowers. "What scent is that, Grandma? Is that your perfume?" I asked her innocently. "What scent, sweetheart? I'm not wearing any perfume," she replied, looking confused. Exactly the next day, she died of a heart attack. Grandma had been suffering from heart issues for years, and considering her age at the time, it wasn't a shock. I didn't realize it to be my gifted ability at first. Not until several deaths later. Mom was always the one I talked to every time I smelled the heavenly scent radiating from people near me. She didn't know what it was at first, either. But after several deaths and countless conversations, my mom and I came to the conclusion that I had the gift of being able to smell death. It's a gift sent from above. For a reason. "You don't brag about it," my mom reminded me, time and time again. She also reminded me not to tell anyone else, especially not those who radiated the heavenly scent. They might be able to avoid it if I told them, I argued. "Nikki," she said with a calm and wise demeanor, "that may be true, but in most cases death is inevitable. No one can do anything about it. It scares people to know they'll die in the next few hours. Death itself is already something people are terrified of, even without knowing it's coming." I agreed, so I kept the ability between me and Mom. Not even my dad or my older brother knew about it. For years and years of my life, every time I smelled that heavenly scent, the kind that made me feel like I was at the heart of a sunlit garden, I knew death was coming. A heavenly scent meant death, but it was usually just one person at a time. Well, except for that one moment when I encountered an entire group of people who emitted the heavenly scent all at once. "They might die at the same time from the same cause, Nikki," Mom explained when I asked her about it. They were standing in the queue next to us at the amusement park. Things like that happen under various circumstances. A few hours later, I read in the news that they had been in an accident on their way back from the amusement park. My gifted ability. Bothered me at first, but eventually I got used to it. The smell was gorgeous, calming, and soothing. You'd get used to it too. One day I was at the mall with 3 of my friends. We were browsing through the running shoes at a store, and nothing seemed or smelled unusual. It was just a regular day. Then, within seconds, it bloomed. The heavenly scent radiated from every single person in the store all at once. Having had this ability almost my entire life, I could tell the difference between the scent coming from one person, a small group, or an entire room. But still, I walked around the store, discreetly sniffing everyone. My friends, the staff, even the strangers browsing nearby. "What is it, Nikki? Is something wrong?" Thalia asked after I returned to them from walking around the store. My face must have looked like hell when I came back, considering Thalia's concern. "Nothing," I replied, trying to reassure them. But I couldn't just shrug it off. They all had it. They were all emitting the heavenly scent, all at the same time. How the hell did that happen? On our way back to the parking lot, we passed by dozens of people. Every single one of them emitted the heavenly scent. I was horrified. Nothing like this had ever happened before. When I got home, I was about to tell my mom about it. As the only person who knew about my ability, but I stopped the moment the heavenly scent radiated from her, too. "You okay, Nikki?" Mom asked, noticing that I was onto something. "Yeah, Mom, I'm okay." I walked around the house, my heart pounding. As I got closer to my dad and older brother, the scent filled the air around them, too. Why the hell was everyone emitting the same heavenly scent at the same time? That could only mean one thing. They were all going to die at once, most likely from the same cause. But all those people? There were so many of them, spread across different places, at the mall, on the road. Most of them didn't even know each other. What could possibly kill them all at once? I turned to the TV my dad was watching, and an emergency news broadcast was on. An asteroid had just fallen past the Earth's atmosphere, heading directly toward the town we lived in. "The asteroid is expected to hit the town in no more than 2 hours," the news anchor announced urgently, looking extremely horrified. "We encourage everyone in town to evacuate as soon as you hear this news." The town I lived in wasn't small, and it was home to quite a number of people. With the panic and chaos caused by the sudden, terrifying news, I was certain that not everyone would be able to evacuate in 2 hours. Then I realized I had forgotten something. I lifted my hands, bringing them close to my nostrils, and I sniffed myself. I too smelled like a garden full of blooming flowers.